Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to be covering enhanced learning through multimedia. I wanted to use a video, but I realized I wanted to show some visualizations, so I'm going to be using a PPT this week. In Mayor's book on Chapter 17, Instruction Based on Visualizations, he highlights the cognitive model for learning words with pictures. So, for example, if you use multimedia, it's perfectly fine, but you do need to keep in mind that there are sensory issues. So, for example, you need to pay attention to the words that you're using and the pictures you're using, because as you naturally, the words go with eyes and ears, and pictures are visual representations. And then also selecting which images provide the most clear understanding of that word. You don't want to pick images that are too complex or very vague. Or you can highlight, circle things, which helps them to learn it in their working memory. But you also want to keep in mind that when using verbal and pictorial, you also want to build off their long-term memory, which is prior knowledge beforehand. So, for example, you cannot expect a kid to remember an entire lesson. So you're naturally going to fall back on some review material, which is going to help the students remember, and then introduce the new material, which will go into the working memory and eventually move back into the long-term memory. One more thing I wanted to highlight was the 5 principles of reducing extraneous processing. And these are basically coherence, signaling, redundancy, spatial continuity, I can't pronounce that word, and temporal. So basically, coherence, you want to keep it as straightforward as possible and don't use pictures that confuse them. And you also want to use signaling words. That draws attention to certain ones. So to remember, you don't have to remember the whole sentence, but if you remember this, it's kind of like a footnote. You will end up jogging the student's memory. And redundancy. Here they're kind of vague on it, where they say do not add on-screen text to narrate graphics, like whoosh, bang. Basically here what they're trying to say is don't add things that are unnecessary. So for example, if you have the word pencil in an ESL classroom, your chances are you're not going to have to write the word pencil under it because they already know it. So basically, if you write pencil, eraser, apple, banana under each picture, you're adding an extra level of detail that it'll make it harder for students to remember what that word is. So if the lesson's focused on spelling or something like that, then yeah, it makes sense. But if it's not focused on spelling and strictly on spoken, you don't necessarily need to add the words. And spatial continuity, basically keeping everything in a neat, organized manner. Don't make everything odd gaps, keep everything uniform. And temporal continuity, presenting corresponding words and graphics simultaneously. So you want to basically entertain them so they stay focused, but you don't want to entertain them so much that they forget what the lesson's about. So you can have graphics, you can have GIFs, you can have whatever you want in your presentation, but keep in mind, do I really need the GIF for them to understand this? Or is this picture too hilarious? Or will they start getting bored? Should I add something hilarious? So it's kind of like a unique balancing act when it comes to multi-presentations, especially in the classroom when using with ESL. You kind of have to find that magic balance where it's understandable, the kids can remember, but they're not bored to death from reciting things over and over again. Okay, guys, I'd like to hear your opinions on this and hope to hear your questions. Thank you.